Many people wonder how wealthy individuals purchase incredibly expensive things without watching their bank balances shrink dramatically afterward. You might see a billionaire buy a massive yacht and assume they spent huge personal savings to acquire it quickly. But behind that impressive purchase lies an entirely different financial system working quietly in their favor daily. Wealthy people rarely buy anything the same way regular earners typically do when making important financial decisions. Instead, they rely on strategies allowing them to keep capital intact while assets pay for nearly everything. This approach sounds mysterious at first, yet it becomes astonishingly clear once you understand the underlying mechanics. Today, I want to walk you through 5 strategies the wealthy use that completely transform how purchases happen. Each strategy is surprisingly simple, incredibly logical, and available to anyone willing to shift their financial perspective. To begin, think about how most people buy something expensive like a car, a vacation, or even a home. They save money, slowly stack their earnings, and eventually hand over that hard-earned cash permanently. After the purchase, their savings vanish, and rebuilding that amount takes months or even years of effort. But wealthy individuals play an entirely different game that protects principal capital while creating additional revenue streams. They focus on acquiring assets first, letting those assets produce reliable cash flow supporting their lifestyle long-term. This mindset creates a financial machine that never stops working, even when they make large personal purchases. Imagine wanting a $50,000 car and treating that decision like a typical middle-class consumer might. You save $50,000, pay for the car, and end up with transportation, but significantly less net worth. Now picture a wealthy person with the same purchase desire, but a completely different wealth-building approach. They invest that same $50,000 into assets, producing consistent annual income without requiring extra hours worked. If those assets generate around $5,000 per year, that income can easily cover car payments responsibly. Within 10 years, the wealthy person owns the car and still holds the original $50,000 intact. One person used savings while the other used asset income, and the long-term financial outcomes are dramatically different. This example highlights why wealthy individuals prioritize building assets before making large lifestyle upgrades. Understanding this mindset opens the door to Strategy 1, a method wealthy people apply constantly. I call it the asset swap because it focuses on exchanging income from one asset to acquire another. Instead of converting cash into possessions, wealthy people convert income-producing assets into additional appreciating assets effectively. For example, imagine someone owning rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, or a small but stable business. Those assets generate consistent cash flow that requires no additional labor or sacrifice once established. Instead of spending personal savings, that cash flow is redirected toward mortgage payments on a vacation home wisely. Over 15 years, the vacation home becomes fully paid off without touching the original asset base. Afterward, the wealthy person owns rental properties, stocks, a business, and a fully paid vacation home simultaneously. Nothing was depleted, everything expanded, and total net worth grew steadily throughout the entire time frame. Most people convert labor into cash and cash into possessions, but wealthy people convert assets into more assets. This difference might seem subtle, but its long-term impact on wealth accumulation is absolutely massive. Strategy 2 builds on this idea and takes wealth building to an entirely different level. Wealthy individuals borrow against their appreciating assets instead of selling them to fund major purchases efficiently. Banks offer extremely low interest rates to people with valuable assets because the risk for lenders is minimal. Imagine holding $10 million in stocks, growing at approximately 8% annually over long periods. That growth produces $800,000 per year without requiring the owner to sell anything. Now, imagine wanting a $2 million home, but avoiding selling stock because selling triggers heavy taxes. Selling $2 million in stock might require selling closer to $2.4 million due to capital gains. Instead, wealthy individuals borrow $2 million against their portfolio at a low 3% interest rate. Their loan costs roughly $60,000 per year, while their stocks continue earning $800,000 annually. They end up richer overall because the assets they never sold keep compounding steadily into the future. This is why wealthy individuals rarely liquidate appreciating assets unless absolutely necessary or beneficial strategically. Strategy 3 focuses on business expense optimization and the power of purchasing through pre-tax dollars. When individuals work traditional jobs, every major purchase is made with after-tax income that has already shrunk. But business owners can classify many essential expenses as legitimate business costs paid with pre-tax revenue. This dramatically reduces the real cost of cars, technology, office space, travel, and necessary professional services. Someone in a 35% tax bracket saves $17,500 on a $50,000 vehicle. This discount alone explains why wealthy people prioritize owning businesses rather than depending solely on salaried work. Beyond cars, this strategy applies to laptops, phones, training events, and countless tools entrepreneurs regularly need professionally. Regular employees pay full price using already taxed wages, but business owners legally reduce costs through structured expense planning. Over decades, these savings compound dramatically, creating a huge financial advantage most regular earners never experience consistently. Strategy 4 reveals how wealthy individuals use property ownership to unlock long-term growth without losing existing assets. It begins with understanding the concept of equity, which is simply the portion of an asset you truly own. When you buy a condo with a reasonable down payment, your mortgage payments slowly convert into valuable equity over time. Meanwhile, if the property appreciates, your overall ownership stake increases even further without additional personal savings required. After 10 years, you might build significant equity through appreciation and principal payments made consistently each month. At this stage, regular consumers might choose to sell the property and use the proceeds for something else. But wealthy individuals rarely sell because selling eliminates the ongoing appreciation and resets the entire growth cycle. Instead, they borrow against accumulated equity using tools like home equity lines of credit or cash-out refinancing. These options allow them to access large sums of money without triggering taxable events or losing ownership. For example, accessing $200,000 in equity can fund another property or investment opportunity. Now, two separate assets begin appreciating, each generating new equity that becomes usable in future opportunities. This process is a repeating wealth snowball that expands almost automatically once initial assets begin compounding. Meanwhile, regular consumers spend equivalent amounts on rent but gain nothing except temporary shelter and monthly expenses. At this point, it becomes clear the financial system works differently depending on whether you own appreciating assets. Banks offer low interest rates to asset holders, provide leverage options, and reward responsible long-term investing deeply. But consumers without assets face high interest rates, heavy taxes, limited credit options, and financial constraints daily. The system isn't designed maliciously, but it naturally favors those who already built meaningful assets beforehand. This creates a challenging cycle where you need capital to use wealth-building strategies, but assets grow slowly initially. Many people feel stuck because they want better lifestyles now, but lack the financial base required for leverage. This tension causes most middle-class earners to prioritize immediate lifestyle comfort instead of long-term wealth building. To understand why this matters, consider the story of David, someone earning a strong $180,000 yearly. David upgrades his lifestyle quickly by buying a luxury car, moving into a premium apartment, and vacationing twice annually. 5 years later, despite earning nearly $1 million during that time, he has very little saved effectively. His car depreciated badly, his apartment built no equity, and his vacations produced only pleasant, short-lived memories. David feels frustrated because he works hard but has almost nothing to show for years of financial effort. His income was high, but every dollar flowed directly into consumption rather than long-term appreciating assets. David unknowingly played the consumption game, relying entirely on his job to maintain his comfortable lifestyle. One unexpected job loss could destabilize everything, leaving him financially vulnerable despite years of impressive earnings. Now, compare this with Rachel, who earns a nearly identical income but approaches money through deliberate asset prioritization. Rachel keeps living modestly during her early years, investing $80,000 into index funds initially. A year later, she repeats the process and soon builds $170,000 in invested assets. Those assets begin generating dividends and growth, producing over $10,000 annually without further personal effort. When Rachel wants a nicer car, she funds the payments through investment income instead of draining personal savings. Her savings and investments continue compounding while she upgrades her lifestyle without sacrificing long-term financial security. Shortly after, Rachel purchases a modest condo, using a reasonable down payment while keeping her overall expenses stable. Instead of throwing money into rent, she slowly builds equity that strengthens her financial foundation year after year. Her mortgage payments match what she previously paid in rent, but now every payment increases her long-term net worth. When Rachel travels, she uses points accumulated from business-related expenses rather than draining personal savings directly. These small, optimized decisions compound into enormous advantages as her assets quietly expand through consistent, disciplined choices. After 5 years, Rachel owns over $300,000 in investments and meaningful equity in her growing condo. Her assets now generate $15,000 annually, enough to cover car payments, trips, or unexpected life expenses. She effectively built a financial machine capable of supporting her lifestyle without relying entirely on active income. Meanwhile, David continues working harder without experiencing meaningful financial progress despite his strong professional salary. Their incomes were similar, yet their decisions created drastically different trajectories that reveal an important life lesson. Wealth is not determined by how much you earn, but by how well your money works for you. Most people believe earning more is the key, but earning more changes nothing if spending habits remain identical. The structure of your financial decisions matters far more than the size of your paycheck in the long run. Now that you understand these 5 core strategies, the next step involves applying them intentionally to your life. You cannot use asset swaps unless you build assets, and you cannot leverage equity unless you first gain equity. Likewise, you cannot optimize business expenses without starting a business or offering freelance services meaningfully. Many people feel discouraged here, but this early stage is where transformation truly begins. For aspiring wealth builders, the first goal is simple: accumulate enough capital or assets to create your initial foundation of financial stability. This might involve driving an older car, renting a cheaper apartment, or cutting non-essential spending temporarily. These sacrifices are not punishments, but strategic moves, allowing you to shift resources into long-term appreciating assets. Once your asset base is established, every wealth strategy becomes more accessible and significantly more effective. Even small investments compound meaningfully over time, especially when combined with patience, consistency, and smart financial habits. For example, investing just $500 monthly can grow substantially when applied with patience and long-term vision. Many people underestimate the quiet power of compounding and how quickly small contributions transform into meaningful wealth. The key is understanding that wealth grows slowly at first, then accelerates dramatically once assets begin snowballing. Most individuals never reach this stage because they consume too early and prevent compounding from working effectively.
They chase lifestyle upgrades before building the financial engine that could eventually pay for everything automatically. This mindset trap keeps millions stuck in a perpetual cycle of work, spend, repeat, without ever gaining lasting security. Breaking that cycle requires embracing delayed gratification, choosing assets before consumption, and prioritizing long-term outcomes. These choices might feel uncomfortable initially, but they create the conditions necessary for permanent financial freedom. Imagine letting your assets buy your next car, your next home, or even your future vacations entirely.
That vision becomes reality once you commit to building an asset base capable of supporting those lifestyle decisions. Every dollar flowing into assets today becomes a future dollar working tirelessly on your behalf later. This concept separates people who retire comfortably from those who work forever just to maintain basic stability. Wealthy people understand this deeply and treat every financial decision as part of a long-term strategic plan. They are not smarter, they simply use a different sequence for building their lifestyle and long-term wealth. First, they build the machine. Then, they let the machine pay for the life they truly desire wisely. Most middle-class earners reverse this order and struggle financially because consumption arrives before asset accumulation begins. Once you recognize the difference, you gain the power to intentionally redesign your financial life completely. Start by asking yourself whether your money buys consumption or whether it buys assets that support future purchases. Each decision pushes you either toward long-term wealth or toward continued dependence on your next paycheck. You do not need massive income to begin. You only need a commitment to prioritize assets before lifestyle upgrades. Even modest progress grows exponentially when combined with time, patience, and disciplined reinvestment of consistent returns. Think of your financial choices like seeds that eventually grow into powerful trees, providing shade for decades. Every dollar directed toward assets becomes another seed capable of producing long-term security and lasting prosperity. Over time, your financial landscape transforms from small sprouts into a thriving forest of growing opportunities. When that transformation happens, purchases no longer drain your wealth, they simply redirect the income your assets produce. This is how wealthy people buy everything without ever truly paying for anything, using their own capital. They let money they already invested handle the cost, while their original capital remains untouched and constantly compounding. Once you adopt this mindset, your financial decisions become calmer, smarter, and completely aligned with long-term freedom. You begin to understand wealth is less about income levels and more about building structures that constantly support you. Wealthy individuals follow these structures deliberately, ensuring every financial move strengthens their long-term position slowly and steadily. Their calm confidence comes from knowing assets work continuously, even during difficult economic cycles or unexpected life events. This stability frees them from stress and empowers them to make decisions without panic or financial insecurity overwhelming them. The same peace becomes available to anyone who commits to building assets before pursuing lifestyle upgrades emotionally. Once your assets begin supporting you, life feels significantly lighter and financial choices become more enjoyable and strategic. You stop worrying about every purchase and instead focus on how each decision impacts long-term financial growth intentionally. This shift creates a more balanced life because you are no longer tied to constant income-producing obligations daily. At this stage, financial freedom becomes less of a dream and more of a predictable outcome shaped by consistency. The beauty of these strategies is their simplicity. They succeed through discipline rather than complexity or extraordinary intelligence. Many people believe wealth requires flawless timing, but it usually requires patience and the courage to start gradually. If you build slowly and remain consistent, your financial foundation becomes stronger than you ever imagined possible. Every small investment contributes to a future where you no longer trade hours for money in stressful ways.
Eventually, your assets generate enough income to cover your essential expenses and support the lifestyle you desire. This transition represents one of the most transformational shifts a person can experience throughout their financial journey. Once assets cover your life, earning becomes optional, and your career decisions become completely independent of financial pressure. You gain the freedom to pursue meaningful work rather than chasing paychecks to sustain basic monthly obligations. This freedom is the true goal behind every wealth-building strategy wealthy individuals apply consistently throughout their lives. These strategies also protect you during downturns because assets offer resilience when personal income temporarily decreases. People relying only on employment often face immediate hardship when job stability becomes uncertain or suddenly disappears. But asset owners maintain stability because their financial systems continue generating income even during stressful circumstances. This stability allows them to navigate uncertain times calmly, make rational decisions, and avoid desperation-driven financial mistakes. A strong asset base becomes a personal safety net that shields you from unpredictable economic challenges over time.
Understanding this truth helps explain why wealthy individuals emphasize building assets long before chasing a luxurious lifestyle. They understand lifestyle funded by assets creates permanent freedom, while lifestyle funded by income creates permanent pressure. This distinction defines the difference between temporary comfort and lifelong financial independence in almost every situation. The earlier you recognize this difference, the faster you can redirect your financial decisions toward long-term stability. Begin by listing your goals, evaluating your spending, and identifying where you can redirect resources into productive assets. You may start small, but those early decisions compound into life-changing results when supported with patience and consistency. Even small wins build confidence because they demonstrate your ability to reshape your financial future intentionally. With time, discipline, and focus, your financial habits evolve into a powerful engine generating reliable long-term prosperity. Each decision moves you closer to a future where money works consistently for you rather than against you. Imagine waking up every morning knowing your assets quietly produce income without requiring your active participation anymore. Imagine buying a home, car, or vacation comfortably because your assets already generate enough to cover the cost. That experience represents the essence of how wealthy people purchase things without ever truly paying for them personally. They shift financial responsibility to their assets, allowing their principal capital to remain untouched and continuously compounding. This method is not reserved for elites. It becomes available to anyone willing to follow the same disciplined approach. You simply need patience, commitment, and a structured plan that prioritizes asset growth above short-term lifestyle desires. If you focus on building assets first, lifestyle improvements naturally follow without jeopardizing long-term financial health. This approach ensures every upgrade enhances your life without draining your hard-earned savings unnecessarily or impulsively. Over time, the compounding effect of disciplined asset accumulation becomes undeniable and transforms your financial future completely. You experience greater peace, increased stability, and significantly more options for shaping the life you genuinely want. The question is not whether these strategies work. Millions of wealthy individuals already prove their effectiveness daily. The question is whether you are ready to stop consuming first and start building the financial machine you deserve. Ask yourself whether your current habits reflect long-term goals or short-term impulses driven by temporary satisfaction. Making the shift may feel difficult initially, but the rewards outweigh the challenges by a massive margin. Choose to build assets now, and future purchases will feel lighter, safer, and significantly easier to manage. Let your money work first, so your lifestyle becomes supported by growth rather than constant personal effort. Once you understand this game fully, you will never view money, purchases, or wealth the same way again. Now, the choice is yours. Continue trading income for consumption or start building assets that eventually buy everything.